We were having sleepless nights because we were on the news and seeing where bombardments are happening, what is happening, and it was very stressful.
In October 2023, the war between Israel and Hamas in Gaza spilt over into Lebanon when Hamas's ally, Hezbollah, began firing rockets from the south of the country into neighbouring Israel in support of Gaza. Nearly a year later, Israel's offensive in Lebanon intensified. Many people were killed and forced to leave their homes. Lebanese authorities' most recent figures put the death toll at nearly 4,000, and an estimated 1 million people have been displaced.
They lost their house, they lost their savings, they lost their work, not only their job, but whatever they have built.
Hania Zaatari, a mechanical engineer working for the Ministry of Industry, decided she had to do something. Drawing on her skills as a self-taught programmer, Hania decided to create a bot in her spare time that helps people access aid.
So I thought that I should have a platform or an initiative that can help the displaced people, and I've started the Aid Bot.
Her Aid Bot, a chat bot, seemingly filled a gap, helping to connect people who've fled or lost their homes with aid such as food, blankets, and mattresses. We've been speaking for a while now, and in that time, a ceasefire was agreed. But the issue of aid hasn't gone away. I'm Reha Kansara, and you're listening to the chatbot Bridging Lebanon's Aid Gap on BBC Trending. Paint a picture for me of Saida before the war and what it might look like now.
It's a city on the sea. It's a nice place. It is still a nice place. Just it looks more busy. It's known actually for being always welcoming others, because it's not the first place that Saida opened the doors for people displaced or people coming from the south.
Sidon, or Saida, as it's also known in Lebanon, is known as the gateway to the south, and it's the third biggest city in the country. At the height of the war, many people from further south fled there seeking refuge. But the real turning point came during one of the most intense days of fighting between Israel and Hezbollah.
On Monday, the 23rd of September 2024, people started to get displaced and the roads were crowded. And I could see that the problem was escalating and the war was escalating.
Thousands of people were forced to flee their homes after Israel's defense forces hit what they say were 1,600 Hezbollah strongholds inside Lebanon. Meanwhile, Hezbollah launched rockets into northern Israel, injuring 2 people. The day after, the Lebanese government announced that 492 people had died on the Lebanese side of the border. 52 of them were children. It was one of the country's deadliest days of conflict in almost 20 years.
Some members of my family left the country because they were afraid that it could escalate. Some members stayed here. I prefer to stay and to help.
It's here, in the midst of war and driven by this need to help, that Hania's Aid Bot came to life on WhatsApp.
It took me a week to get it started, so I finalized everything on the weekend, and the next Monday I was able to pay for it and to get it started. I've used a website called Callbell. WhatsApp is owned by Facebook, and you have to have a Facebook page and a Facebook business, and then you link the WhatsApp to it.
Callbell.eu, the website she used to create the bot, is actually for businesses who use Meta's platforms such as WhatsApp, Instagram, and Facebook Messenger to engage with customers. But Hania has found an alternative use, lightly coding a chatbot that links to social media so that people in need of aid can communicate with it to request what they need, how much they need, and let her know where they are. This means that Hania doesn't have to respond to the hundreds of requests she receives directly from WhatsApp. She can concentrate her efforts on distributing aid with her small team of volunteers or by liaising with NGOs who can also help. Requests are filtered through the bot onto a Google spreadsheet.
I'm not really interested to know their names and anything like that. I just need to know where they are so I can know how to manage the delivery. I'm interested also to know about their numbers, like how many people are they. And if they asked for some clothes or anything like that, the bot will be asking them for the size. If they all ask for baby milk, it will ask for the age of the babies and the milk number and the diapers number, so we get them what they need.
How do you vet people?
Honestly, we're not doing a lot of vetting. I mean, if there is a 10% error, it's okay because the need is so high. For people who are feeling a lot of sadness and a lot of distress, it's probably easier for them to ask help from a bot than from a person.
It's easier because, as numerous Lebanese people have told me, there is a lot of shame attached to what many of them perceive as desperation when having to ask for aid. Most aid requested through the chatbot is distributed by Hania and her friends. They volunteer to help and take no payment for their time. Hania says the aid is all funded by donations coming from Lebanese people living abroad. To keep track of things, she's created a publicly available dashboard to record what the project has spent money on. For requests that have come from outside Sidon, which some have, Hania connects these people with local NGOs or municipalities. According to the people I've spoken to on the ground, that's both aid workers and ordinary civilians, there's just not enough aid to go around.
So the displaced people, they first started going to the schools. So the municipality is managing most of the people who are being in schools. The issue is with people who are in the houses. For example, they got offered the house to stay in from other relatives, or even they are renting a place, with whatever money they have left.
Hania says when she first set up the chatbot, aid wasn't readily available to displaced people who'd found a home either through renting or living with family. The presumption was that unlike those who were taking refuge in, say, schools and other public buildings, they didn't need aid. But that's not the case. Hi, Heldun.
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yes?
47-year-old Heldun Abbas and his family received aid through Hania's bot.
We receive food like rice, like spaghetti, all these detergents. We receive a lot from her. Mattress, pillow, blankets.
Last October, he fled his home and rented an apartment in Sidon with his wife and children, his parents, as well as his brother and sister and their families. 17 people were living in a 3-bed apartment. The youngest, Heldun's son, is 9. The oldest, his father, is 78.
One room for my father and my mother, one room for my sister and her son, and also my brother. So the other people like me, my son, my daughter, and my brothers, we were living and we were using mattresses. We put it in the big hole to sleep.
Heldun was forced to flee after he says he received a call from the Israeli Defense Forces, known as the IDF, on 12 October last year.
The call, it was recorded message. They introduced themselves that we are the Israeli army. You have to leave your home for your safety, you and your family.
In the call, which you can hear in the background, an automated voice speaks in Arabic. The number is American or Canadian and temporary. I know this because I tried to dial them. None would connect. Other members of his family lived in the same neighbourhood. They received the same call from random numbers, sometimes more than once. The message urges people to leave their homes, especially in areas designated Hezbollah strongholds, and prohibits people from moving southwards for their own safety. It signs off with Israeli Defense Forces. 11 days after Heldun fled, his home was hit and destroyed.
You know this, the only home destroyed in this village. They didn't attack any other home, only this home.
So every other house in your village stands except yours?
Yes.
When I compared images of his neighbourhood before and after his home was struck, using Maxar satellite imagery, I knew he was right. It was the only home hit in the area. I contacted the IDF, provided them with the coordinates of Khaldun's house, and asked them why they hit it. They said they had hit terror infrastructure. Khaldun is astonished by this allegation.
I don't like this sentence, terror infrastructure, because really, we are innocent. Really. And we never have any connection with Hezbollah or any other party in Lebanon.
When I asked about the automated calls, the IDF did not comment on Khaldun's case specifically, but told me that it's committed to international law and operates accordingly. And that in line with this commitment, it calls and acts for the evacuation of civilians from combat zones to safer areas. When I first spoke to Hania and later Khaldun, I had lots of questions. And listening to this, you might too. Like, why isn't aid readily available? Why do people who've found private accommodation need aid? What about foreign aid? Bilal Meri has been helping Hania since she set up her chatbot. He says most of the issues with distributing aid stem from the fact that there's a shortage of it.
Some of the people receiving the aid would tell us we don't need the money as much as we need aid. That's because there is a high demand but short supply of materials in the markets.
Over the years, there have been many studies and reports that show how important cash is as a form of aid, as it gives those who need it most choice. Choice is powerful. It's dignifying. But in this context, cash only helps to an extent, because in a lot of cases, the goods aren't there to buy. But it's not just the lack of materials that defines the aid gap. Since 2019, Lebanon has been in deep economic turmoil, and the Lebanese government cannot afford to help civilians without funding from creditors and aid organisations. Charities such as Islamic Relief and UNICEF have told me that operating in Lebanon has been challenging because distributing aid is difficult in an active war environment. Not only have they had to decentralise aid storage in case it's targeted, but the routes they take to supply aid are often bombed. Bilal says the problem hasn't got any better with the ceasefire.
Since the ceasefire, displaced people are more in need. A lot of them have lost their homes because they are either destroyed or damaged and need to be fixed to be habitable again. Meanwhile, the amount of aid is decreasing. We aren't seeing food distributed like before.
But can this aid bot be the solution? John Bryan, a researcher at the humanitarian think tank, the Overseas Development Institute, thinks so. He says, although there are some data privacy concerns around this digital solution, the needs outweigh them.
The machine learning component, I think, is used appropriately, which is that it's triaging, but then the human is absolutely central in that process as well. It's an initiative that is a product of the place it's trying to help. And in order to be inclusive and effective, digital tools like these need to be designed in a way that starts with knowing the channels people are using in that place already to talk to each other and access information and meet them there in their own language. That all sounds pretty basic, but it's often not for a humanitarian sector that still takes many of its cues from its international donors.
Do you think it is an idea that can be transferred to other parts of the world and other crises?
There's always a tension between scale and relevance when you're thinking about applying digital tools to humanitarian contexts. What might work well in Lebanon will likely work less well in places like Somalia, like the Democratic Republic of Congo, that have, generally speaking, less coverage and less access. It's really the local designers, the local translators, the kind of trusted human interlocutors and elements within that system that really elevate digital tools into something useful.
Hello, Reha. How are you doing? It's a lot of mixed feelings.
Shortly after the ceasefire was announced in November, I caught up with Hania to get a feel of the mood on the ground.
I feel very happy for the war to end and very happy for the people to be able to return to their houses. Very sorry about the people who died for the country, and very sad also for those who lost beloved ones. It's a lot of mixed feelings, still a bit of fear for this to happen again.
She told me her aidBot is still in high demand, and she sent me pictures of a village close by she had delivered aid to. In those images, I see clear signs of war. Some of the buildings are completely destroyed.
This is Kfar Joz. I was trying to reach the apartment. The road is fully closed because the building on the left has fallen, has been totally destroyed, and it closed the road, so I couldn't even reach. Honestly, I was afraid to leave the car and to walk.
As this episode goes out, Hania and her small team have delivered 78 food parcels to families of 5 or 10 people, 900 mattresses and 323 blankets across Sidon and other parts of Lebanon. It's an ecosystem of aid organisations that will ultimately help to reduce the aid gap. But the people I've spoken to say this ecosystem is severely underfunded and overstretched. The aidBot might just be a drop in the ocean, but to the families receiving aid through it, it's helped make life a little easier. Since the ceasefire, Hezbollah and Israel have engaged in small skirmishes. Hania is still on edge. Peace, she says, isn't long-term.
We all want this war to end. I don't want my country to be the land of others' fights.
That's it for this edition of BBC Trending from the BBC World Service with me, Reha Kansara. Thanks to BBC Arabic producer Ahmed Abdallah, Hal Haynes for mixing this episode, and BBC Trending's editor, Flora Carmichael. You can email me at Reha, that's reha.kansara, Kansara, @bbc.co.uk.